Part 1. Who are we? The saying, "the observer sees more of the game than the insider," has two meanings. Firstly, players in a game of chess can become distracted by their roles and egos, making it difficult for them to fully grasp the game's dynamics and movements. Secondly, outsiders often have a better understanding of the situation than insiders. This is not only due to their different perspective, but also because they tend to focus more on the situation itself, which reduces the complexity of observation. As beings with superior intelligence, human beings have not been able to answer the fundamental question of who we are. Instead of simplifying things, we have made them more intricate to the point that we have clouded our own understanding. Consequently, we cannot identify a clear link that connects the evolution of species, biological nature, the essence of life, and human society. Chapter 1. Great Contrast. When Martha and Goulet woke up, their ship Magellan was approaching the Earth. Martha could see with the naked eye the butterfly-shaped launch base through the windows, which stood out on the blue planet. The densely packed launch pads, like butterfly spots, dotted the launch base in breathtaking grandeur, but accompanied by an intense, inexplicable mystery and heaviness. "It's finally starting," Goulet muttered to himself next to her. Yes, their mission this time was to explore all the stars in the Great Magellan System for the last time. Before officially starting large-scale space migration, they had to fully explore each star body's surface environment and internal structure to confirm whether it was suitable for human transformation and habitation. 4020 AD. As early as 750 years ago, in 3270 AD, when man was developing the Moon, a significant accident caused a dramatic change in the Moon's structure. Radioactive materials decayed intensively, the temperature rose sharply, magma erupted in large quantities, and the melting area kept expanding. After repeated calculations by scientists worldwide, the Moon will be entirely disintegrated in 4020, splitting into pieces, and the remnants will eventually fall into the Earth. By then, Earth's surface will be covered with thick, hot dust, and the entire planet will be on fire, with forests and grasslands gone, and liquid water and water vapor escaping in large quantities. In extreme cases, Earth may also be covered with lava and no longer suitable for human habitation. For this reason, humans had to prepare an ambitious space migration plan, in the galaxy's small solar-like stars in the galaxy, to find a more suitable for temporary settlement of the stars, each star on the placement of an immigration station. All immigrants who escaped the catastrophe on Earth scattered on different stars to survive, so as to reduce the risk of survival on a single star, but also to conduct experiments to modify the survival environment. If one star is successfully modified to be suitable for human habitation, the surviving humans on the other stars will migrate back there. Space migration. After analyzing and summarizing the data brought back by Martha and Goulet's Magellan and all the other probing ships, the International Joint Conference finally confirmed that the maximum number of human space immigrants is 3 million people. Compared with the last estimate of 5 million people, the last probe's results made the maximum capacity of immigration a total of 2 million less. The screening criteria for immigration eligibility became more stringent. 2 million minors of all ages were selected as infants, toddlers, children, and adolescents to ensure human genetics perpetuation. The remaining 1 million were scientists, leaders, teachers, and immigration station staff. In the final 2 years, humanity began a global screening, a non-stop show of talent that showcased intelligence, skills, and aptitude. Since the year 3300, humanity had known its fate and had long since become accustomed to the ongoing years of debate and live screening regarding eligibility for immigration. No one could know who the survivors would be when the planet suffered its demise. Those who remain on Earth to await destruction might also survive in a refuge at the South Pole or the North Pole. Those who were qualified to emigrate might also suffer various misfortunes during the journey, and no one knew whether they would be able to survive in the new colony. Therefore, Both the participants of the immigration qualification and the audience were delighted with the selection show and enjoyed the last moments to the fullest. One night in 4020, when the moon formed a considerable rift, Earth's night sky was brighter than ever, and 30,000 spaceships were ready to launch on the base. Martha and Goulet, as the pilots of the spaceship, slowly ascended the steps of the ship after saying their final goodbyes to their families. When entering the hatch, Goulet clutched the hexagonal pocket watch in his hand, which was a lucky charm left to him by his grandfather. "Do we still have a chance to come back?" Martha turned her head and suddenly asked. "Oh well, maybe," Goulet muttered, slightly disappointed. Each ship was equipped with the most advanced cryo-hibernation equipment, the human body into a dormant state, physiological activity, for a long time to maintain the lowest state of life activity. Thus, the human body could live up to tens of thousands of years. The spaceship was also equipped to simulate the ecological environment and biological chain of the Earth, material recycling, thus ensuring sufficient food. If there was a breakdown or accident during the flight, any surviving emigrants on the ship would survive for thousands of years after waking up. Each ship could carry 100 people in flight. When reaching its destination, the ship would be transformed into an immigration station with a maximum population of 10,000 people, enough to meet the human population in it for about 200 years. When the Magellan landed safely on Planet 21, everyone on board cheered and celebrated that they had been given a new lease on life. Because Planet 21 was so different from Earth's environment, with no oxygen in the atmosphere, no water on the surface, and frequent storms, humans were still not free to move around outside the station. However, they could continue to live in the confined space, representing the highest level of human technology. Their quality of life was not affected in any way, just like a small tribe of affluent people. Agriculture, industry, commerce, education, and community management still followed the same operation pattern as on Earth, running in an orderly manner. After about one Earth year, both adults and minors had almost all adapted to the new environment. During this space migration, nearly half of the ships were lost and their fates were unknown. One of the ships, the Alexander, headed for Planet 108, had an accident while flying to the outer edge of the solar system, damaging its power system and rendering it unable to fly long distances again. After much discussion and deliberation, the captain reluctantly decided to return to Earth, which was probably the least risky option. By the time Alexander passed through Earth's atmosphere, the entire planet was in disarray. Large pieces of the moon were constantly crashing into the Earth, and Earth's surface was almost entirely red, representing hot magma, with only a few sparse patches of blue. All of Earth's human shelters were not spared the effects of the high temperature and pressure. The captain chose to land in the area with the most prominent blue patches to ensure as much as possible that the ship's passengers would have a better chance of survival after landing. The atmosphere was filled with water vapor and dust. The ship was subjected to intense washouts during the descent, shaking the hull violently and eventually going out of control. When it finally reached the surface, the Alexander was mostly in pieces, with only the best protected cabin containing the infants surviving intact. All other cabins were destroyed and no one survived. After 10,000 years, the carefully designed infant cabin was reactivated, automatically awakening the 25 frozen babies inside. At this moment, the Earth has been largely restored to its original state, with 60% of the water preserved and the ambient temperature in the cabin's location reduced to a range that can be tolerated by the human body. Outside the hut, the plants are a bit more vibrant, with sparse moss and vegetation everywhere. With food available throughout the hut to meet their needs, the infants stubbornly survive on their own in an environment without a single adult. Two groups of survivors. The infants on Planet 21 and 25 infants on Earth were raised in distinct environments. On Planet 21, the infants were raised by experts and received parental care, protection, and education. They were brought up according to human pedagogy and received excellent guidance and training at every stage. From their early age, They systematically studied in the schools of the colonized planet and were gradually introduced to the accumulated human knowledge. Starting with fundamental subjects, these children acquired predetermined information and knowledge that fulfills the educational requirements of the future elite. The academic studies they underwent were extensive and challenging. They had to learn not only theoretical concepts, but also survival techniques and methods for transforming environments on the planet. In addition to acquiring knowledge and skills, they developed social skills and learned how to negotiate, compete, and coexist in a small society. Infant survivors that returned to Earth lacked the privileged upbringing their peers had. They had to rely solely on their primitive instincts to survive and grow up on their own. All of them were of the same age with no previous human experience or knowledge to learn from. As they grew up and learned to open the hatch through years of exploration, they felt as if they had gone back in time to when the ancient apes, the forerunners of human evolution, lived. They curiously surveyed and discovered the new Earth, a world of which they knew very little. However, these children differed from ancient apes only in terms of their physical characteristics. Their brain, speech organs, and body structure are traits belonging to modern humans. As both types of survivors thrive in their new environments, the book then explores their upbringing and various evolutionary considerations. Suppose children on Planet 21 gain independence at 18 years old. At age 25, they possess elite IQs and EQs, are well-educated and skilled in both cooperation and competition. Given their privileged upbringing, will they still relentlessly seek more wealth, power, and fame once they gain independence? Will the malevolent aspects of human society, which have proven difficult to eliminate, persist on this colonized planet? Once humans start living in the wild, the accumulated knowledge of human civilization is lost, and their evolution must start afresh. How will they cope with the challenge of survival as new plant and animal species emerge in most parts of the Earth? Will they persist in living off raw food and fur, or will they quickly acquire the skills to use tools and fire? How will their speech organs and language evolve without their ancestors' guidance, if they are incapable of learning the language of their forebears? The two groups of survivors, despite having virtually identical genes, exhibit a stark contrast in intellectual traits due to being raised in vastly different environments. Considering that all individuals belong to the same species, can Homo sapiens still claim to be the most intelligent species on both planets? This question may remain unanswered. If both types of survivors continue to live and reproduce, Planet 21 will be transformed in hundreds or thousands of years into many cities with hundreds of thousands of inhabitants. Using the known evolutionary principles and logic, a human society on Planet 21 can be envisioned to resemble the following. Despite the abundance of materials, consumption is consistently increasing, and individuals are required to work harder for higher incomes to obtain improved goods and services. Despite the high levels of economic and social prosperity, the expenses of housing, transportation, oxygen, and daily necessities continue to be high, resulting in an unabated stress of life. Despite the population's high overall quality, social competition remains intense. To live better than others, each individual on Planet 21 have to excel in opportunism, deception, and exclusion, in addition to constant effort. Moreover, the city has a considerable political climate, with endless political factionalism. Occasionally, residents from different towns express animosity towards each other, sometimes leading to confrontations incited by politicians. There is still a relative disparity between the rich and poor, and political power and corporate wealth remain the main goals for many people to achieve success. A common aspiration for many individuals is to acquire a colonial mansion similar to Gatsby's castle. The unfavorable aspects of prosperity, resulting in the proliferation of illicit drugs and crimes like theft, murder, and fraud, still occur occasionally. On the new Earth, human society, 300,000 years later, appears to us vastly different from its early days. The population and territories on the new Earth continued to expand, despite harsh living conditions and a short average lifespan. Language and writing emerged at a specific time, and subsequently evolved and progressed to maturity. In the course of gathering and hunting, human beings learned to cooperate, which led to the use of fire and various tools. They also discovered, summarized, and created knowledge that was passed down through word of mouth and written records to subsequent generations. Population growth and the expansion of the tribal community caused friction between clans. However, due to the vastness of the earth, aggressive behavior, wars, and killings were still relatively rare at this stage. Later, humans on New Earth learned from the remaining ruins and wreckage of the spaceships. When comparing the two phases of civilization, their brain development, cognitive formation and development, and knowledge superimposition effect evolved much faster than their Homo sapiens ancestors millions of years ago. At a certain point in time, rituals began to emerge in human society as a norm, to ask gods for blessings on crops and safe travels, and to tackle the uncertainty surrounding hard work and the harvest. While the evolutionary process involves many contingent factors, religion, morality, and science will follow the same path and logic as before, albeit at varying speeds. Perhaps in another 10,000 years, humans on New Earth will have evolved to resemble current human society. Negative traits such as greed, lies, cowardice, self-delusion, and violence, which are typically considered the worst of human nature, may arise and dissipate over time, eroding trust among humans. In order to maintain a normal social order, individuals must rely on morality, the rule of law, and social institutions. However, it is not surprising that no universal model has emerged as a successful and replicable solution for all of humankind. Communities engage in trade as well as competition and conflict with one another. The underlying factors that provoke wars of various kinds, like hot wars, information wars, and financial wars, are always present. This makes it possible for human societies to return to scenes of devastation and destruction at any given time. Human society on the nascent Earth may develop in two ways. Citizens of some countries enjoy relative freedom and prosperity under the protection of military, technological, and economic power. On the other hand, in other countries, people are often starving and living in poverty, while others are being brainwashed and living under constant surveillance and censorship, as described in the book 1984. The pace of evolution is relatively slow on both planets. The inhabitants of Planet 21 have inherited past knowledge and civilization and enjoy a material and technologically advanced lifestyle. On the contrary, humans on Earth have started their evolution again from a time comparable to early Homo sapiens by surviving tenaciously in nature, ultimately gaining full control over their environment. In any case, both evolutions would lead to the same outcome. Mankind would become masters of planetary energies on each planet, but also struggle in a whirlpool of stress and anxiety created by human society. What causes the dual nature of humans to be wonderful yet bleak? Is this dual nature an inherent evolution flaw, or has the human perspective on life, society, and the universe taken a wrong path?